Too often business owners today are focusing on the little things in business. They're ordering supplies, dealing with employees, and dealing with customers, when what we should be focusing on is the most important thing, cash flow. I've grown over 10 businesses from the ground up. In this podcast, you'll learn the ins and outs of building a business and how to build transferable value. And most importantly, you'll learn how to maximize cash. They call me Cashflow Mike, and this is the clear path to cash. Hey, it's Cashflow Mike, and welcome to the Clear Path to Cash podcast. And guess what? I am live in Las Vegas. That's right, live in Las Vegas. And as you know, this is the place where anything can happen. And believe it or not, last night I had a brief and casual encounter with a two-time Super Bowl winner and current Monday Night Football announcer, Booger McFarland. That's right. I've got to tell you the story because in today's episode, I'm going to break down that meeting between us, because it reminds me of how others see you and how you might see yourself, right? It was really interesting to see the anatomy of an encounter, a meeting happen. And the reason I'm doing this is that everyone you meet has an impact in your life. You know, this is especially true if you're a small business owner. If you're a small business owner, the smaller a business you are, the closer you are to the customer. And as businesses grow, they tend to become less personal. You know, and that's the reason why a lot of companies opt to adopt a personality as a brand, kind of like Flow with Progressive or, the Most Interesting Man off of Dos Equis. They choose a personality that people connect to, right? And in the few minutes that I spent with Booger, our interaction was kind of a microcosm of the world that we live in and how we react to one another. So I think it was an interesting story, and I wanted to share it. I actually had something else planned for this week, but my gosh, this just kind of fell in my lap, and I'm going to run with it. Hey, but first, let me tell you that if you're a new listener, go to cashflowmike.com for any of these show notes and any of the links that I'll mention during the episode. And don't forget YouTube. I do have a Cashflow Mike channel. You can subscribe to the channel and make sure that you click that bell button to be notified of any of my future episodes. And hey, we're on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, so don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a review. Love hearing what you guys have to say. So let me get to the story, right? So I think that the best way I can relate the small business owner aspect in my meeting with Booger McFarland is to kind of tell the story in parts, right? Kind of like an introduction, a body, a conclusion, and that way I can explain the situation from my point of view and my perception of what I think his point of view was. And whether we like it or not, we're always on the stage and we're always characters in the play, right? Everybody we meet or encounter. So some of us have small parts like me, while others have, they act on a larger stage like Monday Night Football. But the funny thing is that we're all wanting to be, to present our best, right? That's what we're all wanting to do. We're wanting to present our best. And this is especially true, of small business owners, because you never know who your next customer is going to be. So you want to try to make every interaction as positive as you can. And so let me just explain what happened, because it's not a new story, right? It's something probably happens to all of us, maybe every week, every day. I don't know. But as I said in the intro, I'm live in Las Vegas. I'm with my fiance, and we're sitting at the bar. We're at the casino at Paris. We had just eaten dinner. We played some slots. I was settling in for kind of a nightcap before heading out to the room. And I saw a gentleman sit down, about a seat away from us on the right. And being prior in law enforcement, if you didn't know that about me, I was a Missouri State Trooper for a while. I typically check out kind of other people around me. I'd like to say it's for my safety, but nowadays it's probably more that I'm curious. That's kind of what it is. I just like the people watch, maybe like you do. But there's a man dressed kind of casually, just minding his own business. He just quietly ordered from the bartender, but here's what caught my attention. He's wearing a necklace, and on this necklace is a medallion, and the medallion just says NFL. It's the NFL logo. Right. So you always kind of like, oh, well, who is that? Trying to figure him out. And I can't place him. I don't know him. I don't recognize this person sitting down for me. I just don't see it. And then I look at his hand, on his right hand. I mean, it's a huge ring, kind of like a Super Bowl ring. I didn't look like a Super Bowl ring, but I couldn't tell. But curiosity gets the best of me. One thing that my fiance knows is, when I see something, I kind of focus on it, and I'm going to ask the question. Right? I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to start a conversation. And she immediately said, "Don't do it. Just leave it alone. Let it go. Don't even talk to her." Well, I mean, she knows me like that. And if I see something interesting, I just got to ask about it. But I left it alone for the time being. And a few minutes later, I looked his way and we made eye contact. And I just couldn't contain my curiosity any longer. So I said, "Okay, I'll bite. What's the ring for?" So just saying that out loud on this podcast, I have to say it wasn't smooth at all. It doesn't sound right. I say, "Okay, I'll bite. What's the ring for?" And his answer was, "It's just jewelry." So that's what it was. No context, no elaboration, no answer. I was just left hanging. Like, obviously I'm asking about it because I want to know about it. But I didn't press. But I have to tell you that I was a little put off. Like, oh, he's too good to talk to me. He's too good to tell me what the real story is. He thinks I'm just some random person sitting in the bar, which I was. Don't get me wrong. But it's like he just kind of was sloughing me off. So, and nobody wants to feel that way, especially me. I don't like that. So I said, "Hey, by the way, my name's Mike." And he said he had a great smile and great, just kind of vibrant. I said, "Hey, Mike," but he never reciprocated. He didn't tell me his name. And that's how we started off, right? With him being kind of avoiding, with him kind of just like going, okay, giving me, niceties, giving me some politeness, but really just telling me to go, pound sand. That's the way I felt. Well, and this is where I feel bad, right? This is where I feel bad because I turned to and tell him, I said, "Well, I guess he doesn't want to tell us." And she's very polite. She explained how some people just don't want to be noticed. And frankly, I didn't recognize him, so I didn't notice him, but I felt that she was right. And, but I was just still a little bit off put, just by being brushed off. I was just kind of off put. Now, before I get into what happened next, I wanted to kind of connect, what I just said to small business owners, because this was just a brief interaction between two strangers. And it happens every day, but he didn't care to engage, and I don't blame him. Sometimes I don't feel like it. But for a business owner, you always wonder if you're missing out on something, maybe a relationship where, you're hurting your own reputation. We want our community to think highly of us. So it didn't start off right. And frankly, he's in Vegas. I'm in Vegas. Maybe there's nothing there, but maybe there is. You don't know. So after feeling bad, I said, "Hey, why don't you come over and join us and tell me your story?" And he actually laughed. He said, "What do you mean, tell you a story?" So I said, No. I said, "Tell me your story." I just wanted to reach out, kind of, I had a big smile. I was trying to just engage him back. And I wanted to give him a safe space to just cut it up like a regular person. While he was enjoying himself, because I always feel better when I get to talk to people, right? I don't like to just sit there alone and silent. And believe it or not, he began to change chairs, and he started to change chairs to come down to talk to us when somebody he knew walked up. So he was interrupted from making the move, but then, he was polite. He said, "Hey, wait a second. I know this guy." He just kind of, told me to hold off for a second, but he remained in his chair and began, to talk really amongst the group. He was kind of including us in the group. We shared a few stories. Actually, it was me. I was sharing a few stories of some other NFL players that I'd met, like Phil Villapiano, or, like Rocky Blyer. I had met those and I shared the stories, and it was funny, right? Just because he thought it was an interesting way to chat it up. So I felt like we had started to kind of bond because he was more interesting. He was more engaging. He was kind of starting to open up just a little bit. So, hey, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story, but I just want to remind you about going to Cashflow Mike for any of the show notes or anything that you want to hear about this. I'm going to put this story onto the show notes. Also go to YouTube and search for Cashflow Mike and make sure you subscribe for the channel. Don't forget to be notified by clicking that button, and love reviews, right? So give me a thumbs up, leave me a review. And of course, if you don't want the video version, you can always go to iTunes or Spotify or Google Play and leave me a review and subscribe to the channel. So thank you for that. Anyway, all right, so the key part of this story, right, back at it, the key part of this story, because we all recognize that there's an importance in bonding and kind of building rapport, is the key element of starting relationships. And it comes naturally for some people, but it's more difficult for others, but it's still super important. So yeah, this is where I'm starting to feel like we're trying to make progress, where we're actually starting to connect. I still don't know who this guy is or what his story is. I just don't, which is really a balk on me right now because I don't recognize somebody, but back to the story, after feeling like we made some headway, I get up out of my chair and I walk over and introduce myself more appropriately. And I shook his hand and I restated my name. And then he told me in a real low voice. I mean, so low that I had to kind of lean in and ask him to repeat it. And he told me his name is, Anthony McFarland, but people call me Booger. I'm on Monday Night Football. And I'm like, click, 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 click. Oh yeah, I finally get it, right? It's starting to make sense. I get it. You're on TV, you're an announcer. People know you. And actually, people probably do know him. So I said, oh yeah, I think I've heard of you. And I remember watching football in the last couple of weeks, and somebody had said something about him. I remember the name. It kind of stuck in my mind. So I think they were saying some things about you on TV the other night, and he kind of hung his head and looked depressed or disappointed. And I said, hey, but it was endearing. I think it was something nice. After that, he's looking disappointed. I feel like I've put my foot in my mouth. And so I went back and sat down next to my fiance. And truth is, I do remember two announcers kind of referencing him, but I couldn't recall exactly what they were saying. I just remembered his name. And another thing, I don't even recall seeing him on TV ever, right? So I don't know if I'm a terrible football watcher or it just kind of blows by me where I don't pay attention to who's talking at what point in time. I'm just watching the football game. Well, that just made me think about all the advertising dollars that I've spent to get my name out there, for only people to remember me for one thing or one little thing or nothing at all, right? I mean, I'm thinking this guy's on TV all season long and I don't recognize him. Whereas, I'm doing advertising all the time on social media, on Google or whatever. People don't recognize me. It's part of it. You're like, it's a process that you have to go through. Maybe they say it's 13 times before, you really make an impact and make a lasting impression. Well, that's maybe what it was. So anyway, when I returned to my seat, I told my fiance what we had talked about. And then she told me that I just put my foot in my mouth, because currently, and I had no idea, he's trending on social media, as kind of a meme, right? And I guess it's a bad thing. It's embarrassing. His reaction then kind of made sense to me, and he's probably just tired of people bringing up, any of the mistakes he's made while he's announcing. And it's got to be a stressful job after all. I mean, who in the world can just go out there and, talk, the way it is, the podcaster says, right? Who can go out there and just talk and always say the right thing, and when I went out and looked, because I had to go look, I went out and looked at some of the things people were making fun of him about. And it's just because he says, dumb things every once in a while. But I can tell you that one of my favorite announcers ever, John Madden, he said dumb things all the time, and I loved him. We all loved him. So that doesn't matter to me, because it's hard to keep the football loving masses entertained all the time. The very fact that he's out there, he was chosen to do it. And I tell you what, he's got the personality to pull it off. So, I mean, that's one of the things I like about him is that when he turns on his smile and he turns in and he engages, the guy is charismatic and he's got something, right? He's got the it factor that you can be on TV with, So here's the real issue, right? He's trying to avoid, some negative Nancy, rando in Vegas coming up to him, he's been dealing with this on the internet. He's just trying to enjoy a personal moment. Wow. I'm thinking that this guy's full of himself. He's full of himself and he's wanting to act more important than he is, and I was so wrong. I was the one that was wrong. And I could, I instantly kind of better understood him and, as a person and not just a TV personality. I understood him as a person. He's like, oh, man, I'm dealing with this stuff all the time. I just want to be a regular dude. I just want to be a regular guy. I got it. All right. So it made sense. So how did it end? And I'll tell you what, you're going to be surprised, because as he got up to leave, You got to believe he was gracious. He was polite. He was friendly. He was endearing. He actually hugged my fiance, and I stood up to shake his hand. And, all of our barriers seem to be broken down by now. And, I think trust had been built because he grabs me and gives me that bro hug, right? We bro hug. We enjoy just kind of a small, brief embrace. Just some good words were exchanged between us as friends. And my impression of Booger McFarland changed in just that one embrace. It really did. It went from this guy's just fooling himself to, oh my God, I'm a fan, right? Because he was real, he was vulnerable, he was a man, and now I'm a fan. I'll defend the guy because I got to see Booger McFarland as Booger McFarland, not Booger McFarland as the NFL Monday Night Football announcer. So I got to see him as him. And I tell you, that's a good dude right there. That's a good man. All right. So what's the business owner's moral to the story, right? Because you got to remember, this is a business owner podcast. Well, in just a matter of minutes, I went from blowing the guy off to writing a podcast episode, about him as a person. Right. This is how fast that people can become a fan of you and your business. Right. If you just take the time to invest in others, that they will reward you with their business. They really will. So when you're out and about, you're out in the public, make sure you invest. Make sure that you're always presenting your best foot, because you never know who that next person you talk to is going to be, how they can impact your life, what a relationship can be formed, and make sure that you're always being the person that you are, and people will notice. So, hey, just want to remind you, go to Cashflow Mike, because that's our show for today. Get to cashflowmike.com, get all the show notes. Hey, check out this, on YouTube. I'm sure you are already, because this is the video portion of it. But, we're also on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Make sure you leave me a review or just contact out. Love to hear from you. My name is Cashflow Mike, and you've been listening to the Clear Path to Cash podcast. Thank you so much. And remember, don't be a dumb business owner.